Jones versus Aspinall, Makhachev versus Topuria. What the hell is the UFC 317 main event? It is less than 2 months away, and we do not have an announcement yet. There's been a bunch of rumors circulating. There was a rumor Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis was supposed to be the main event, and it fell through due to a du Plessis injury. Du Plessis came out and said that's complete BS. The fight is already agreed for. It is just not for that card. So I'm assuming it's going to be September, Australia, maybe, or somewhere in August. But we are less than 2 months away from essentially, you know, a top 3 biggest pay-per-view of the year, typically for UFC, which is International Fight Week. And we don't have a main event. First off, DDP Khamzat, no chance, that's off the table. It's already been agreed. It's for a different card. We got the word from DDP. Topuria has said that he is fighting on June 28th. We also have a rumor being put out there by Dean Thomas, but a rumor that the main event is going to be Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane for interim heavyweight gold. Those are essentially our only options. Topuria versus fill in the blank. It could be Makhachev for lightweight gold. It could be Topuria against Oliveira or Sarukian for a vacant belt at 155 or for an interim belt at 155. It could be Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane, which would be a huge disappointment. Especially Tom Aspinall should not have to fight another time before taking on Jon Jones. That should be the next fight regardless. But we have no answers. We have no announcements. It has been over 2 weeks since Dana said we'll have that announcement on Tuesday. So what's going on? Really, the only fights that we have announced for UFC 317 right now is Manel Kape versus Brandon Royval, Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov, which is not actually signed yet, and Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. So we have a relatively empty card right now. With that being the case, I'll tell you right now, Costa Kopylov and Royval Kape are both going to be main card fights. Costa's a big name. Kopilov's trying to get ranked. That obviously makes sense. And then Manel Kape and Brandon Royval is a top 5 fight at flyweight. And that probably also tells us that Pantoja is going to be defending against Kai Kara France on the card. Royval versus Kape is the contingency fight. If anything happens, probably Manel Kape title shot. And if nothing happens to that fight, the winner of Royval Kape will then fight for a belt after that. But what's the main event? I think, first of all, there's not many options left at this point. And there's not a whole lot of unbooked big names that could realistically be on this card. What I'm thinking for this card is that we are going to have I hate to say this, I think we're probably going to get a Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane interim heavyweight title fight with a Ilia Topuria versus Arman Sarukian main event or co-main event, potentially for interim or vacant gold. For some reason, with it being this close and there's no indication that Charles Oliveira is in camp, I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to be on this card fighting Ilia Topuria. But then again, we also do have the rumor that Islam Makhachev started his camp. So very well, we could be getting Islam Makhachev versus Topuria main event, Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane co-main event. Actually, you know what? That's probably what I'm thinking now, is probably that. Topuria Makhachev main event with an Aspinall Gane interim fight for the co-main, and then probably a pretty weak rest of the card, which is really disappointing. But it makes sense for them to put Topuria and Islam Makhachev on this card because these are two of the bigger stars in the sport right now. And this International Fight Week card has kind of always been like the showcase card for the biggest talent. Conor McGregor was on this card more than once, I believe. Adesanya main evented this card, and Volk main evented this card when he was like #1 pound for pound, I think so. So having a Topuria and or Makhachev on this card makes all the sense in the world if it's not going to be like a Jones-Aspinall fight. So that's my prediction. There's a whole lot of nothing right now in terms of announcements, but Topuria did say this. So I think Topuria is going to be on the card and he's going to be fighting for gold. I think there's no way that Topuria moves up to lightweight and doesn't get a vacant or interim fight for the belt at the very least, obviously at the most, getting an undisputed fight with Islam Makhachev. So UFC really slipping up with these pay-per-views in the last like year or so where we're getting really tight on big pay-per-views that are not getting booked. For example, Alex Pereira against For example, Alex Pereira against Jamal Hill for the UFC 300 main event was on like 6 weeks notice, and there was no announcement. And they tried to kind of sneak it in on Instagram after Topuria knocked out Volkan Anaheim. So we're kind of getting into that weird territory where the main event fighter, unless they've already had a contract signed and it's just not announced yet, that fighter is going to be fighting in the International Fight Week main event on like 7 weeks notice, which is really short for a lot of guys that cut a lot of weight. So let me know your thoughts down below. Who do you think is going to be the main event for UFC 317? Build a card for me in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like this video? Then like and subscribe down below. I also do multiple live streams per week, along with behind the scenes content and members only live streams for our channel members. So become a channel member for access to bonus content. It's only $5 per month and it greatly helps the channel's growth. I also do a podcast with my best friend Bo, and I have a non-MMA channel as well called Wyatt's World. You can check both of those out linked below.